Here's Brody Brazil.
You know, it really is interesting right now with the San Francisco 49ers because the storyline that's going to impact the team the most is the injury and subsequent loss of tight end George Kittle. He hurt his hamstring in week 1. He's going to the injured reserve. That means he has to miss at least the next 4 weeks and games. So early October, mid-October, at the very best is when we'll see Kittle back in action. Although we also understand these hamstring injuries can be very tricky and can last a lot longer than anybody wants. That's big news. That's definitely going to impact the team. But everybody here on a Tuesday is talking about how 49ers kicker Jake Moody has been waived and released from the team. That's right. After 1 week of this regular season in 2025, number 4 is no longer a 49er. And we understand last year came with some struggles, but the injury that maybe led to more struggles, he had a good preseason. Kyle Shanahan very much backed the kicker going into this regular season, but it has to be seen as a blunder, I think, that you had all this time. You had an entire offseason, you had a whole training camp, you had a whole preseason, and to suddenly dismiss your kicker after 1 week, after a missed field goal, after a blocked field goal, a game that you ultimately won, although a game that the 49ers could have put away a lot earlier against the Seahawks if they had 2 more field goals made instead of not made. Jake Moody released from the team. I feel bad for him. I feel bad for everybody involved. It seems like the right decision for the team. Sometimes there's so much speculation and cloudiness and a little bit of reservation. And if you can see the body language on the players that maybe they're not into this, they're into something else or moving on, sometimes it's almost just like the change of scenery is best for everybody. However, on the human level, I feel really bad here. We're going to do this beginning, middle, and end. The beginning of Jake Moody goes like this. Drafted 99th overall by the 49ers. That was in the 3rd round back in 2023. Is that high for a kicker? Yes, absolutely. He was only the 2nd kicker since 2016 drafted within the top 100 picks. The 49ers went out there on a bit of a limb, getting a kicker that early, somebody who they thought was going to be their future, somebody who is an important part of the team. You don't want to be driving like they were last year in a couple games with question marks in their head. If we get a 35-yard kick, is it going in or not? That shouldn't be a question at the NFL level. In 2023, as a rookie, he was 21 for 25 on field goals. That's 84%. His longest that year was 57 yards, put up 123 points for the 49ers. They obviously went to the Super Bowl, lost the Super Bowl, but he was a big part of that. In fact, he actually set the longest made field goal in Super Bowl history in that game against Kansas City, 55 yards, which was later broken, but to the point was doing just fine in that 2023 rookie season. Then the middle of the story here with Jake Moody is that he made 13 of 14 to begin last season. Everything was going fine. Until that game against Arizona, we all saw the replay. He clearly hurt himself. He suffered a high ankle sprain in week 5. High ankle sprain for any player is never good, but for a kicker, it's especially difficult. He came back in week 10 after missing those games of 6, 7, 8, and 9. Came back in week 10 and ultimately only converted on 11 of the final 20 field goal attempts for the rest of the season. And yeah, there were times where they didn't even send the kicking unit out there because they'd rather go for it. They didn't have a lot of confidence in Jake Moody the entire time. He finishes the season at 70.6% of a completion rate, something like 32nd in the league of all kickers. He also had some individual games that really stood out, frustration factors, right, for the entire team. There was the game where the 49ers did beat Tampa by 3. This was on the road. He went 3 for 6 in that game, so he missed 3 field goals in a game the Niners still won, but by only 3 points. Do the math. Add in those 9 more points, it's a little bit more of a comfortable lead earlier in the game. They should have put the Bucs away earlier in that game. They couldn't. There was also that incident when Debo and Pepper were going at it, but Moody was part of it as the team was going back to the sideline after a missed field goal. So there was just a bunch of body language and communication that even us from the outside looking in could see this was not a good situation. Moody was also 0 for 2 on field goals when the Lions beat San Francisco by 6 later in the season. Yeah, 3 plus 3 is those 6 points that makes a huge difference. So you could start to see the tides turning here from a great start to the injury that led to some struggles to now ultimately the end. This past offseason, Moody changed his entire approach to kicking from a 3-step approach to a 2-step approach. He tried to simplify things. Coaching staff praised him for it. They thought this would be more of an answer for him, get more consistent results. He felt good about it. He made 5 of 6, and I know this is a preseason game, but that preseason game in Las Vegas against the Raiders, including the one that everybody saw from 59 yards out at Allegiant Stadium, that was the game winner. That made Kyle Shanahan look at Moody and say, well, see, we told you, we've stuck with him. He's our guy. We're gonna ride with him for a while. There's no question going into this regular season who our kicker is. They didn't really bring anybody else in to try and test Moody for the job, so it's his job. Okay, 5 for 6, 59-yarder. You think, all right, he's probably deserved this. But after week 1, again, the win in Seattle by the 49ers by a pretty slim margin, could have put the game away a little bit earlier with some field goals made. Kyle Shanahan fully backing Jake Moody, saying this, quote, right now, I've got no question. He was asked about Moody's job security. Is there any question? Right now, I have no question, head coach Kyle Shanahan said, trying to finish today and go get on the plane and evaluate stuff and get back at it. Basically, we're not even talking about this right now. We'll figure things out later. But right now, I have no question. That was on Sunday. Then nothing happened on Monday. People are like, well, is this not happening? Is this the inevitable? Are we missing something here? And then on the Tuesday, Jake Moody gets released. Here are my takeaways. Number 1, we all know this. The job security of NFL kickers and head coaches and some others in the industry, like the performers of the industry, their job security is always pretty fragile. And Jake Moody knows that, and Kyle Shanahan knows that. They have to make sometimes tough decisions. I think what's really upsetting here for Moody is that he was doing fine enough until the injury, and then the physical injury led to maybe some of the mental struggles and the mental side of things, and that's how we've arrived at this result. If you're looking at a turning point of his entire trajectory with the 49ers, it goes back to week 5 of last season. That game against Arizona where he got hurt. Simple as that. And they didn't have a kicker down the stretch of that game. They didn't know really what to do. They weren't necessarily prepared. And obviously when he came back, they were still not in a good situation. I think in Kyle Shanahan's defense of Moody, and people will say, well, wait, how could he lie to everybody on Sunday, do nothing on Monday, and then the 49ers waive Moody on a Tuesday? I think Shanahan was still committed to Jake Moody even after Sunday, but probably in conversations with the coaching staff and some of the team leaders that ultimately it's just the group decision was probably part of this. Shanahan and the 49ers probably had to read the room to a certain degree to ultimately come to this decision and realize that it was going to be harder to let this continue on and fight through it and not beneficial to fight through it rather than to start from scratch in a brand new way. But I want to say this, releasing any starting player, kicker, wide receiver, running back, any player that's a starter, I mean, honestly, though, any player that's even a backup, releasing any player after week 1 seems like a blunder. I don't know that there's any other way to put it. It's unfortunate. It shows a little bit of indecisiveness, instability. I'm not saying the 49ers have a crack in the armor. I'm not saying that there's a flaw there. I'm just saying that this is an unfortunate situation, how it played out. You rarely ever see something like this after week 1 of the NFL regular season. So I wish the best to Jake Moody. Don't know the guy personally, understand that it's been a roller coaster for him, to say the least, in a couple years in the NFL. I hope he latches on. And I hope he continues to have a good career. I know this has to be right now a huge mental setback on top of everything else that was already going on. Obviously, I wish the 49ers the best too, but that's a different situation. So not one of the more pleasant sides of sports, but this is why they get paid the big bucks. They have to go through some of these situations that fortunately most of us, we don't encounter on a regular basis. Let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. Also, thumbs up while you're down there. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I would love to see you back here next time.